complete, and then straightway we'll come to the Sanjay Agarwal session.
A very good afternoon to all. Welcome to the seventh and the last Agri India Meet of this series, hosted as part of our ongoing Agri India Hackathon. This series of online knowledge session introduced us to many experts from industries, business, and the various stakeholders of agriculture sector and its ecosystem. I would like to express my heartiest gratitude on behalf of the entire PUSA Krishi team to all our speakers and panelists. Over these 7 sessions, we got a lot of insights, which I'm sure will help us in stitching together the agriculture ecosystem in India. Today, we are joined by policymakers and implementers representing the government, who has always acted as custodian of agriculture, and they will take us through the plans and the policies that they have in store for us. May I now request Dr. Neeru Bhushan, CEO PUSA Krishi, to set the context and open today's session. Here to me.
Yeah, thank you, Priyanka, and distinguished Secretary Sir and Chairman for the today's session and panel members, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. I, on behalf of ICR, IRI, and on my behalf, welcome you all in our most special and last Agri India Meet, focusing on insights with policymaker, where we would like to learn about the recent initiatives that has been taken by Government of India and how these startups can take advantage of these initiatives. We conceptualize the structure of Agri India Meet to catalyze the exponential effect of Agri India Hackathon, which was launched by our Honorable Agriculture Minister on 31st of December 2020. To apprise you all that we have completed 6th Agri India Meet, which started last year on 30th of December, and now today we would end up with these policy insights. I am pretty sure that today's session for startups and agripreneurs is one of its kind, which with such a learned panel who actually play a vital role for government to prepare a robust and conducive policy which would help startup to go extra mile. On these lines, I am happy to share the updates of Agri India Hackathon, how Hackathon is being. So I'll just give a small presentation about that. As I have already mentioned that the hackathon was being launched by our Honorable Agriculture Minister on 31st of December. And with the objective was to develop new, fast, and frugal innovative solution for the current agriculture challenges, as well as to organize and facilitate dialogue between different stakeholders. And 5 focus area has been identified to call the application, which was the farm mechanization, precision agriculture, supply chain, post-harvest, and waste to wealth. Under these 5 focus areas, 17 problem statements were being given. I'm very happy to share with you that we got a very good response, and we received around 6,109 applications from all over country. And now, then based on the different criteria like market need, novelty, stage of development, scalability, technical and financial feasibility, team, and overall business plan, 300 participants were selected to participate in the semi-final round by the 100 evaluators. So each application was being evaluated by 3 different evaluators, and one from the industry, one from the academia, and one from the incubator, so that they can evaluate the application from all angles. So that's how we could select the 300 application for the semi-final round. And I'm very happy to share that on 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we could organize 900 meeting with these 300 applicants who are being selected for the semi-final round, and around 75 to 80 mentors participated in these meetings. And these were all virtual meetings, and I'm really very happy that we could do it. So we were jittery about it, how we are going to do 300 meetings in a day, but I'm really very happy that we were able to achieve this target. So now the 65, we are going to announce the result on Monday about the finalists who are going to participate in the final round on 17th. They are going to receive a cash prize of 1 lakh rupees. But besides that, they'll be eligible to participate in regular incubation program, which are being organized by 29 Raftar Agri Business Incubator, which is being established under RKY Raftar scheme in 2019. So they'll be eligible to choose any of the Rabi and they can be there. And besides that, because during this hackathon, we have created the consortia of 40 industry partners and 10 VC funds. So they'll be getting the mentoring and market intelligence from them, as well as the field trial support from these industry partners. So now we are approaching towards end, and the grand finale will be organized on 17th of February, where we are going to give that. So besides this, the Agri India Meet platform was developed to discuss and deliberate on different issues. So first 3 meets were on a theme-based Agri India Meets, then fourth was for the startups. On third, we have listened from the industry, and yesterday it was with the investor, and today we have come for the today is the last where we would like to listen from the policymakers. So that's all about that. We are now approaching towards the end of the Agri India Hackathon, and I am very sure that we will be that it will also have a great impact, and we'll get some good innovation, and that will help to the farmers. Now, going forward, I'm really glad to introduce today's chair for the session, Dr. Ashok Dalwai, who is 1984 batch IAS officer, as presently serving as the CEO of National Rainfed Area Authority in the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Dr. Dalwai is a student of agriculture sciences with post-graduation in agriculture economics and PhD in economics. And Shri Ashok Dalwai has had an illustrious career in development administration, where he has implemented several reforms in the rural agrarian sector in the state of Odisha. In his capacity as a district collector, both in the state of Odisha and Karnataka, he has applied his deep knowledge of the agriculture sector. Over to you, sir. And again, I hope today's Agri India Meet would encourage young youth towards understanding the policy perspective and benefit towards their startup journey. Over to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Niru, for inviting me. You've given me a very easy job. I just need to introduce the speakers. And we have an illustrious band of panelists today from different backgrounds. And more importantly, we have the person who's leading the policy framework of India's agriculture in my friend Sanjay Agarwal. So you've done a very good job in inviting the best of people. First of all, let us congratulate you for having taken on the responsibility of moving forward the startup environment in our country, particularly with respect to agriculture. Well, we had the wrong perception a few years back that startups meant only the information technology. We now realize information technology is a tool, is an application. He is a facilitator to actually apply that to operationalize the various economic domains. And agriculture is now recognized, particularly in the context of COVID-19, as the key economic domain of the world, not just of India. So the emphasis on agriculture and the credibility of agriculture as an important human activity, or rather I would call it an important civilizational activity, has been recognized, and we are all here. However, we are also aware that India's agriculture has begun to face new challenges, not because it has not done well, but because it has done very well. And we must all appreciate, particularly the young applicants here, that development is its own enemy. The success in development is its own enemy, because Indian agriculture since 1947, and more particularly since 1965, has done so well that Indian farmers, supported by the scientists, have been generating surpluses. And today, the challenge is how to convert that surplus into money so that the farmers get an incentive. And that's the reason why Honorable Prime Minister envision that we shall double the income of the farmers by 2022, because income is central to welfare, and welfare is central to India's growth. Hence, the challenge today is how do we reduce the cost of cultivation? How do we increase the volume through productivity and ensure that the entire volume of production gets value through proper monetization? So the hackathon, that Agri India hackathon that you have organized, is very important in that direction. It will help us to take it forward because it will help us to adopt precision agriculture both at production and the post-production stages. It will help us to negotiate several risks that agriculture sector is privy to. And more importantly, it also helps us to connect very efficiently and effectively the farm gates or the markets, both within the country and outside the country. And no better than inviting the best of young minds today who are extremely, not just informative, but they're also analytical. And they take to technology like fish to water. So now, given the proper mentoring, they would be able to apply their analytical minds and tech savviness to actually bring forth the applications. And when I see the 5 focus areas that you have chosen, they're extremely contemporary. They will also meet not just the current challenges, but also the future challenges of the 21st century. And I must also congratulate you that you have actually tailored this whole hackathon program very systematically, beginning with the launch by none other than the Honorable Minister for Agriculture, because he is in a way the father of the entire agriculture movement in our country under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister. And today, after having interacted with industry houses and then the capitalists, capital investors, you have now brought to the policymakers. And here we have another leader of the policy, Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, and supported, of course, by 5 important panelists from different domains who are good at not only at operational level, but also at policy formulation stages. So it is my privilege today first to invite Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. And after he, as the secretary of the department, gives us the proper context of the policy framework that will actually demand certain things from the applicants and the startup environment. We have 5 people and we have 45 minutes for them. And I will be requesting them that we will give 8 to 9 minutes to each of the speakers. I know each of you has so much of experience and expertise that you have so much to say, but unfortunately, we have only 9 minutes for you. And that will be the challenge. How do you decant the whole gamut of knowledge into just 8 to 9 minutes? So to just briefly introduce the keynote speaker, my dear friend Sanjay Agarwal, and the respected Secretary of the Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, there is so much to say about him. Let me first start saying that he was one of the youngest person to get into IAS in 1984. As all the wickets have started falling, there are few wickets just waiting to fall, and Sanjay would be one of the last person to actually say goodbye to IAS as a career bureaucrat. And he has had so much of experience in the state of Uttar Pradesh, which is as good as a country by itself. He has handled transport, he has handled industry, he has handled agriculture, including agriculture research. So first of all, being a student of Indian Institute of Technology, one of the most premier institute of our country, he has a brain and he also has a heart. In fact, his services in the transport department of Uttar Pradesh are well recognized, and it has been actually catalogued as one of the important innovations that he did. And of course, he has a brain for technology, naturally being an IIT student. And more importantly, over the last 2 years, he has been leading the policies and programs of the government of India's agriculture sector, and has earned a name for himself. And he's also a good leader in the sense that he's able to take everybody along within the department, as also across the departments. It is my privilege and pleasure to invite my dear friend and Secretary of the Department, Ms. Sanjay Agarwal, to deliver the keynote address, and no better person than him now to share the ideas with us. Sanjay, yours, please.
Thank you, Ashok. You're a very close friend of mine. I think you've spoken a lot about me. And I can say the type of support, the type of companionship, the type of companionship the type of guidance I get from you is great. I acknowledge that, and thank you for that, Ashok. Chintala ji, a very energetic chairman NABARD, and lots of very innovative, doing lots and lots of things there. Neeru Bhushan ji, we worked together, I think, in UP also. Siraj Chaudhry ji, Priyanka Mango ji, Anuj Ranjan ji, Chavi Jha ji, Anil Agarwal ji, and all the persons who are present here, Shivam Sharma. I'm very pleased to be here, and the brief presentation with Neeru Bhushan made. I'm very excited, and it's a great thing has been done in a period when Honorable Agri Minister Neeru Bhushan ji inaugurated in 30 December. The response of 6,109, I think this is a figure you mentioned there, and doing one-to-one meetings, more than 300 meetings with 900 mentors, I think great things have been done. And rightly have been said by Ashok Dalwai, lots and lots scope is there in Agri Startup Network. I will just touch 2 points what the recent past have shown. Locust was one of the major attacks supposed to happen last year. It was supposed to be 3 times than a previous year, and to the magnitude which was never imagined or never thought of. And at that point of time, we put all the resources of the ground level team resources. And then somebody said that certain locusts are sitting over the trees in an area where irrigated area was there, especially in Punjab and something like that, where the ground team were able to go. Service of drones were required. And then protocol was framed for the drones. A lot of people came in as a part of drone application. And that drones was used first time for the locust operations. And I'm pleased to inform that they come for incubation here, and most of the locusts were killed at that point of time. And this year, the locust infestation is expected to be not even 1/10 of last year, or negligible and might not be there, just because of a scale of operation which was done. I'm mentioning this because when we use technology, we never not aware there are large number of startups who are working as a part of all the systems. When we tried to hire drones, suddenly one people told me that person come from USA 3 years down the line. He was doing very good there and started a startup of drones there, but there was zero application of the country. And suddenly an opportunity opened up for the sector to the level. Now, large number of permissions have been given for the usage of drone in the country, institutions, and things have opened up. So basically identifying a problem, using the right technical solution starts up a good environment which country looking for. Second example I'd also like to mention here, which is very important. Agriculture, rightly said by Ashok, is a tough call, and people investment, when private investment is not there in the sector, agri startups coming in, the confidence building has to take place. We are running a Fasal Bima Yojana scheme, which is a crop insurance scheme. So this is a crop insurance scheme where for every village, you have to have a property experiment. And if a village has 4 crops, and with so many number of villages, crop cutting requirement would be over crore. And organizing that number of people, that number of team to doing a crop cutting at that short window of the harvest period becomes quite a challenge. So we thought, why not take a technology solution where through technology we can predict the crop estimation. Then it turned out that there are not many players because that has not been experimented much in the global level, in terms of insurance level and everything. I'm pleased to inform that Government of India started a scheme where they said, identify the people, come with a concept that this is your concept and this is how you can do the crop estimation. You have certain net worth, you have done certain things, and we will fund you for that experiment doing in certain area of your choice. I'm pleased to inform around 13, there are large people cropped in, and we identified around 15 partners, and government have funded full 25 crore rupees to them to go for proof of concept and create a concept wherein your estimation would be to a level of certain tolerance limit. We accepted tolerance limit of 10% or 15% plus. And with this expenditure of 25 crore rupees, right now 7 partners have been shortlisted. And I'm pleased to inform that the startup network, quite a few people, noted people came in, and this is scaling up now. And this year, all these 7 persons have given area of 100 districts, 100% funded by Government of India, to bring up a scale where technology can be collaborated. When you do 100 districts, for remote sensing, unmanned aviation equipment have to be running, and all these unmanned aviation equipment, vehicles, drones, small aircrafts are not given permission by DGCA. I'm pleased to inform the August House, day before yesterday, first time in the history of India for this project, DGCA permitted 400 districts flying of unmanned aviation vehicles. So this I was mentioning both because technology solutions scaling up with support of government in terms of policy framework, sky is the limit, and government is committed to ensure all sorts of necessary scaling up for the desired input is there. I would like to briefly touch upon 3 or 4 important policy frameworks which have come in, which will definitely help the startups to doing a scaling up, making investment there. The most important one is 1 lakh crore financing facility. This 1 lakh crore financing facility is if you are in the corporate sector with the support of Chintala ji, NABARD, with 3% interest subvention from Government of India, and they are supplying at around 4%. The interest rate is 1% on long-term loan of 7 years. And similarly, from the banking facility institutions, we have capped at MCLR plus 1. The interest rate is less than 8%. So with a 3% interest subvention, that loan is less than 5%. And this loan is 2 crore rupees up to loan for the period of 7 years. 2 things are happening because of this. For any project which relates to post-harvest, relates to community farming, which the startup wants to scale up, we are assuring you upload your DPR on a portal of Ministry of Agriculture. People say that institutional financing is not available for these projects. We will follow up all these projects which have a right DPR and a right DPIR to ensure that banking institutions give a loan to them, and not only provide loan to them, provide a loan at an interest rate which is less than 5%, a long-term loan. So this financing facility available will be a good instrumental in terms of a scheme implementation for these players to move forward and getting a right appointment with this thing. Then for the startups and especially the FPO system, so 2 things have happened. Government of India is working on systems of farmer producer organizations, and these 10,000 farmer producer organizations will be created by 100% government funding. And these government FPOs will get a part of funding in terms of scale, in terms of formation, in terms of equity participation, in terms of knowledge, in terms of grant for most of the activities. But also these FPOs qualify for a venture capital financing fund and other activities through SFAC. So venture capital finance fund can be available, and NABARD also has a scheme. I think with Chairman NABARD, we were talking about that scheme when he talks about his this thing. So venture capital fund assistance, loan assistance, and to provide this thing, any eligibility are part of the schemes which is there, that grant is eligible with the Agri financing. So financing facility taken care of by that aspect in this schemes of things. Then recently, most of these startups which are coming are using a good amount of technology, good amount of inputs as a part of this thing. And Dalwai is chairing that committee of doubling farmers' income. And he made a very important recommendation as part of doubling farmers' income, was a revamping of national e-governance project on agriculture, which is called NEGPA. I'm pleased to inform that NEGPA has been revised as per recommendation of the Dalwai committee, and to include deployment of new emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain technology, Internet of Things, and robotics for the part of this thing. So anybody can put up a supply chain mechanism for vegetables, fruit, vegetable as a part of startup network, web mobile-based pest surveillance system. N number of examples are there. Unmanned aerial vehicles are there. Digital packages, development of crop and soil algorithms, e-project of ML-based crop health, gap analysis. So whatever we want to do as a part of technical solution, good amount of large amount of funding as a part of revamped NEGPA funds. And I want to ensure that funds availability in all these projects is not at all there. Whatever funds are required will ensure that whatever funds is made available, and those startup can come into this thing. And Niru Bhushan actually talked about that the scheme of 5 lakh and 25 lakh in terms of seed capital and RKY schemes which is there, which can start and take this. At this juncture, I would like to inform one of the important things which is also going to happen. Ashok, I'll try to restrict the time. I think it's over. It's finished off. 2 minutes. Which is coming up in a farmers database. What we are going to do in a very near future, We had a target by March of 8 crore farmers. I think we will be able to catch up by plus minus 1 month. Latest by April. 8 crore farmers database shall be in public domain, and this database is there where farmers' land, farmers' details of Aadhaar, farmers' bank account, whether farmers taken KCC loan or not, father is covered as insurance scheme, what type of crop pattern they're going, all sort of information are there, and private startups can leverage all this thing to provide services to the farmers. Have a based on the exchange mechanism, this farmer database, a full digital stack of farmer database shall be instrumental dealing with the activities for this thing. With this word, I'm very happy for all the things which have been done. I would like to compliment all the persons who have participated in this thing, contributed for this aspect of this thing. I'm confident that Chairman NABARD will throw light on NABARD policies initiative to boost the startup system. NAB Ventures, a venture equity fund, is doing a great thing. And in recent past, the types of convergence which NABARD has actively done with the agriculture is outstanding. All these efforts show there's a long way to go, but convergence of all the officers, right minds, and type of activity which this hackathon has brought out in 3 months, getting 6,149 persons there and taking it forward is a great thing. Congrats to you, Chavi. Congrats to you, Neerav Bhushan, Priyanka Chaudhary, and all who have contributed to this thing. With this note, I'd like to again thank all of you and young tech brands who have working to connect with innovators, change makers from very grassroots level of our country and help us to sustain the mission of building smart agriculture and self-reliant India. And I assure you on my behalf, on my Ministry of Agriculture, you will never find us wanting for anything. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. You, in a very brief time, you have encapsulated the contours of what the Ministry of Agriculture is doing. And you have very rightly shared with our young applicants and participants the multiple initiatives that our ministry has actually rolled out. And very rightly, you have drawn attention to the restructuring of the NEGPA and more importantly, the RKVY into RKVY Raftar, which now facilitates funding of incubation facilities, funding of startups and other enterprises in agriculture sector. And I think the most important initiative that you have made, for which you really need to be lauded, is creating a centralized farmers database. In fact, the private sector is always crying for access to data. So I think with this centralized farmers database, the market opportunities for the startups would be easily available because they can leverage it. And in this, thank you very much for sharing with us the entire contour and many more things. I think the way you have structured the funding under the Atma Nirbhar Bharat, particularly the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, where thanks to your initiative, the bank has agreed to lend at a very reasonable rate of interest, at 5% rate of interest, including, of course, the 1% first-time subvention that Government of India is providing on the long-term investment. These are all extremely important environment creators for the startup environment in our country. So the youngsters can look forward to actually commercializing their technology, their ideas that they have begun. So thank you so much. And in this context, let me also recognize the presence of Chavi Jha, who has actually led the restructuring of RKVY and Raftar, one of the very most passionate officers that I have really seen. Chavi, thank you for being here. So now I move on, and now I need to invite one of the key persons with the permission of Dr. Chintala, since Anil Agarwal, the Joint Secretary, is to go for another meeting. We are inviting him first. And Anil, of course, is, as they say, the Newcastle, as they say, Newcastle known for coal. He's a man who's handling this Startup India program in the Ministry of Industries and Internal Trade, Promotion Industry and Internal Trade. So Anil, you have done many things in your career, but I think one of the most things that you're well known is the way you resolve the issue related to angel tax. I think that's very important because startups need angel investment. And so here you are, who not only knows the startup environment like a back of your palm, and simultaneously you are the one who is knowing so much of angel tax. So I would now request you to share your thoughts on the policy environment as well as the operationalization of this idea and concept into proper technology. So next 8 to 9 minutes belong to you. Do kindly take over. Thank you, Anil.
Mr. Anil, you are on mute. Can you please unmute yourself? Yeah, thank you.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for these kind words. I am extremely privileged and honored to be part of this panel today. My warm regards to Shri Sanjay Agarwal, sir, my cadre mate, my senior from UP cadre. My regards to Chairman NABARD, my regards to Mr. Ashok Dalwai, and all my colleagues in this panel. Sir, it is such a good thing to see 6,100 applications on this Agri Challenge. When we did this for the first time in 2017, December 17, we had 1,000 applications. Now, sir, in 4 years' time, this was December 20, in 3 years' time, we have gone sixfold. And this actually means the way Neeru and Chavi and the team at the Ministry of Agriculture have taken the startup initiative so seriously. They have gone out to reach innovators, and the way they have been supporting, they have created an entire ecosystem for startups to thrive in this country. This is an extremely, extremely good thing to see, sir. I would just introduce the Startup India initiative, which was launched in January 2016. When this initiative was launched, nobody knew, very few people knew in Government of India what a startup was. Very few people in the state governments knew what startups were. And when we started building capacities in Government of India and different states over the last 5 years, now the result has been phenomenal results. So today we have more than 42,000 startups working across 48 industrial sectors of economy, 48 industrial sectors. Now, sir, we have a startup coming from each state and each union territory. We have a startup coming from almost 600 districts out of 720 approximately districts in the country. We have covered that distance. Sir, 55% of the startups are from metros, 45% are from non-metros. They are actually coming up from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. This is the kind of spread and innovation that we have seen. Sir, last year in 19, we launched the first ever National Startup Awards to recognize the best of the startups that are there in the country. Agriculture was one of the sectors that we had kept, and these awards, they went from agriculture, energy, education, right up to space. So from agriculture, we had 4 categories, and the 4 categories were productivity, farmer engagement, post-harvest, and allied areas. We received 157 applications from 21 states for Agriculture National Startup Awards. Sir, this is the spread, and this is the kind of innovation that is thriving across the length and breadth of this country. Sir, I wanted to tell you one thing. We have selected about 35 winners, and 192 is the total number of winners and finalists. One of the basic learnings from our experience of conducting these National Startup Awards has been the hand-holding experience. We have structured our hand-holding startups in a very structured manner. There are 8 pillars of hand-holding. One is the mentorship support. One is investment support. One is government procurement support. And sir, here I want to look for your attention, because some of these startups would be having some outstanding solutions where we as government are the biggest procurer of their solutions. And we need to find ways on how, if a solution is verified, validated by one of the agencies, one of the government agencies, how we could actually issue orders of procurement by government agencies to these startups. Sir, if we could do this, if we could do work on this particular vertical, it will do tremendous boost to the startups in this country. Sir, this time I also want to say all the startups and all the incubators who are part of this, that the National Startup Awards for 2021 are open. Applications are open. We have to, the last date is 15th of February, and I would invite everyone to participate in this. I also want to take this opportunity of mentioning about the Startup India Seed Fund that we have just launched. Now, sir, this will be implemented through incubators. So, Government of India will give grants to incubators. You have almost 300 incubators. So, all those incubators can apply for these grants. We give 5 crores to each of the incubators, and then incubator we select startups to give them grants. An incubator can give up to 20 lakhs as grants and up to 50 lakhs as convertible debentures. So this is the grant that we give to incubators. It remains with them. It can enrich incubators if they are working professionally and if they are doing well. So this is another thing that I wanted to say. We are going to be implementing this scheme from the 1st of April this year. And I hope agriculture sector becomes one of the most prominent sectors to take advantage of this, looking at the reach and the penetration of this. We also had an innovation bridge with Israel, where we worked on micro irrigation, water challenges and that, and some of the outstanding solutions that have been brought in that have also been commercialized. Sir, I thank Niru for the initiative that she has taken. This kind of agriculture meet it has shown an outstanding promise, and all my best wishes and all my support for this initiative. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anil. You have been extremely parsimonious in utilizing that time. You have actually left us with some surplus time. Thank you so much. But within the short period, you have covered the entire gamut of the policy framework relating to Startup India. And I'm sure the participants are now much educated about the facilities that Government of India offers, particularly relating to the incubation facilities. I think they are the bridge between the idea and operationalization. And I think they should take the opportunity to also file in their applications for the competition and the award that they can actually look forward to. Thank you very much, Anil, and we will look forward to your continued association. There may be questions that will certainly come to you. So we will request you to wait. So now we will move on to another great achiever and a successful person, Dr. Chintala, who happens to be from the agriculture family, a product of Indian Agriculture Research Institute, postgraduate, and also a doctorate. And then he combines that background in agriculture with financial management. So he has been serving for long in the very prestigious refinancing institute of our country, NABARD, and he has served before becoming the chairman. NABARD, he has served as the managing director of NAFIN, so he would know much more about the financial services and the what are the risks that are associated with it and how to utilize it. So it is our privilege, Dr. Chintala, to have you. You are the chief of the NABARD, which the entire agriculture sector looks to you in the country. And I'm sure the youngsters also would look to you, not only as the chief of NABARD, but also as a person who knows the subject, who knows what is management of an enterprise. So may I now request you to share your ideas and knowledge with our applicants and participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok Dalwai ji. It's very nice on your part to introduce me. And also that our Guru in the ministry, Shri Sanjay Agarwal ji, who is our director also. And also I heard Anil Agarwal ji also. So it's a very nice to listen to really what exactly is happening in the startup field. And as you are aware, as every one of us are aware, that maybe for quite some time, agriculture was doing well, but it was not having that kind of a gene in that one. So now many of the youngsters thought that agriculture graduates means they have to join the agriculture department and do the normal routine work. But today, we could see that, as Sanjay ji was telling that earlier, or maybe you are telling that earlier, startups means only IT related. But now I have found that many of the recent graduates of agriculture and allied sectors, they started combining that basic knowledge of this agriculture and allied activities with the IT and trying to come out with solutions to this. And also from NABARD, which we could see that maybe I am there in this institution for the past 35 years, and we could see really how the credit growth, insurance growth, productivity growth, everything is happening. And also that we were producing quite a lot of things, but never this production was a customer-centric or market-centric. And that is where now we found these startups are giving that kind of a direction to the farmers. I interact with quite a lot of startups who are maybe reasonably very successful and commercial also. And here I would say that maybe for the information of the audience that startup funding, many people are doing that. Government also has got some fund earmarked for it, and there are some private investors. NABARD has got NAB Ventures. NAB Ventures Private Limited is a venture capital fund of NABARD with 700 crores as the authorized one which we are trying to mobilize. And right now, close to around 200 plus crores are there with us. And we are now giving this kind of maybe the seed capital or maybe the second level of investments into that one. And already around 4 or 5 investments have been made in some of the most promising startups. Now here I would like to just again tell that now that there are unicorns, now that though we have started only 2015-16 as a startup country, but already some 5-6 unicorns are already developed, but they are not from the agriculture. But now I feel that there are some startups in agriculture which are going to be very promising, which we would see that some of the things which we have seen in the last 8 months, maybe the valuation has gone up almost 4 times, 400% or 500%. That itself indicates that the solutions they are offering to the farmers are very resilient and they are appropriate. And here I would like to tell one thing that as Sanjay ji was telling that the Agri Infrastructure Fund, now the Government of India has announced 1 lakh crores and this is the loan to be given by the banks. And for this year, 10,000 crores is the target. NABARD has taken 5,000 crores on its own, and we have made a kind of a convergence with the Government of India scheme, so that the primary agricultural societies will get the loan at 1%. Why I want to mention is that now the startups can leverage maybe some kind of a technology where these go downs, once they are coming in into the picture, then maybe the startups can as well say really which go down space available and really what kind of a scientific qualities these go downs are having, and what are the distances from the farmer which their farmer is located, and subsequently they can as well go and store it, and that is almost like connecting the dots. So this is one thing which I would say that is a very good thing, that now so many things which the institutions are doing can be leveraged by the startups to create an apps in such a way that the farmers and also everyone policymakers can get the benefit out of it. Then the next one is that the geotagging of the warehouses. We already started attempting it, that existing warehouses. So now at a later part of time, this data also will be available to many people who can harness it also. So that also is one area that we can do. The third very important thing that has come is with regard to this farmer producers organizations. Now the collectivization has become a mantra, and our experimentation with almost 4,500 FPOs in the past 8 years, we were very happy really how the collectivization is giving the dividends to the farmers who come into this one. Now there are so many startups, they talk to us saying that they want to harness this collectivization effort of the farmers through the FPOs. And there are so many issues with the FPOs. The first thing is that it is maybe whatever be the Government of India scheme and NABARD scheme is to organize the farmers, to give maybe the registration status and subsequently everything to the structure. But thing is, we have found that there are so many issues which they have to be addressed by the maybe this kind of a startups. One is with regard to the compliances. Now, most of the farmers are not well aware of these tax compliances, maybe returns to the ministries and maybe various organizations. So now the startups can as well get such kind of a software where they can get all the data from the farmers and they can run the whole thing right from accountants to everything, so that The returns also, whatever had to be done, the system itself can generate it and they can be submitted. Otherwise, now they are paying quite a lot of amount to the chartered accountants and others. So this is one area which we are impressing upon most of the startups, that we can experiment with the FPOs, and that is going to be a very good kind of a business. Then the next one is with regard to that IoT. Quite a lot of developments are taking place, and we are also well aware as to really who is operating in this space, and we are trying to have a foothold as to how much can be given to each of these things. And the most important thing that is happening is with regard to the seed related, the micronutrient related, then the Uberization of the farm equipment related, and also with regard to that animal husbandry and fisheries and other things, where both the production, productivity, marketing, everything is being taken, but being looked into by the various startups. And we have not only finance, actually we are looking into so many such kind of things. So now, when I look into all these things, the kind of developments that are taking place in the country, I find that now in the days to come, the entire Indian agriculture is undergoing a paradigm shift. One is with regard to the new formulas, maybe some of the changes are likely on the anvil, and the subsequently it is with regard to the production technologies that are being, now the startups can aid in the production technologies, startups can aid in the aggregation technologies, some startups can aid in the processing, startups can deliver the insurance, startups can do maybe some kind of facilitation for maybe having the export markets and all those things. And also that one of the startups which we have seen in the blockchain technology, that where one of the banana exporter had put his produce and already he's getting orders from abroad. So now that is the way I think things have to come. So this is then the last one, that agri-business incubation centers. Now the government of India also is having, and maybe quite a lot of institutions are having it, but we have a very focused approach of promoting the agri-business incubation centers with the agricultural universities and also IITs. Right now, we have 5 agri-business incubation centers. And one such center in Madurai is already doing wonders. Around 150 incubators are already in their very maybe advanced level of putting their produce into the market, and also some of them are making money also. While the other day that IIT Kharagpur, which is having a very strong foothold in the agriculture and food processing, which was inaugurated by Honorable Education Minister Shri Ramesh Pokhriyal, they are very upbeat that for the Eastern India, that maybe quite a lot of requirements are there with regard to the startups, and this Agri Incubation Center in IIT is going to do it. So now the time has come. Only before I wind up, I just want to only tell that now so many things are happening and so many players are there. ICR is doing, IRA is doing, agriculture universities are doing, and private people are doing, and maybe many other institutions are doing this kind of a startup funding, lending, and maybe hand holding. But there should be a kind of an umbrella organization or a directory. This is what my wish is, so that if I can go into the directory, that I will know really what are the startups being handheld by somebody, and whether I also got a space, or maybe what more can be done to scale it up. Maybe this kind of things have to be done. So now the time has come for having a coordinated effort by all the institutions, and NABARD being one of the largest financial institution in agriculture, right now going to reach around 6.5 lakh crores of business, and having already set up the NAB Ventures Limited, we are interested to see really how these new bees on the maybe horizon, that is all the new people who are coming, who are enthusiastic, because whenever I talk to the people from these one startups, I really get energized. The way the ideas they bring and the way they look at the same problem from a different perspective when compared to others, and subsequently trying to bring some kind of a logical solution to that one. So now the time has come for all of us to have a coordinated approach, and I am very upbeat that is maybe in another 5-10 years, there will be at least some 10 to 15 unicorns in the agriculture, and that will encourage many of the new people to come into this kind of startups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chintala. You have shared very bright ideas. I think the takeaways from your lecture are that we focus on diversified agriculture, not just crop segment, but go into the growth potential of animal husbandry and fisheries and aquaculture. And equally emphasis that you have given is on mobilization of farmers into producers organization and aggregation of produce. I think for our potential startup entrepreneurs, is most important that if we want to solve the problems in agriculture, we will have to adopt technology to bring scales of economy. And that scales of economy will come only when we are able to aggregate the produce from the decentralized, fragmented production centers and mobilize millions of farmers. And government support is there. And I have seen at least one of your incubation center is one of the finest. And you would be certainly funding more. Now that we have agriculture specific incubation centers in the country, apart from, of course, other commodity and other technology-based centers across the country, both in private sector and government sector, our participants have really a great future. So thank you very much for throwing light on these aspects of our entrepreneurship. So next, friends, we will be, we're waiting for Mr. Ramanan, but then what I will do is now to invite Ms. Siraj Chaudhry. So the participants, I must share with you that you have so far heard to 3 government voices. You know, I would also consider Dr. Chintala as a government voice. But today, next person will be an industry voice. You know, of course, he's, though from industry, he also has a lot of say in the policy making because he's recognized all over the country in the domain of agriculture, food, nutrition, and enterprise building as one of the thought leader. And I think there are very few seminars where he has not been a co-panelist, or should I say, I'm not a co-panelist to Siraj Chaudhry. So it's always a pleasure and privilege to hear Mr. Siraj Chaudhry. And he has vast experience of 32 years in industry across the domains. And he has helped in reviving industries, various enterprises. And then more importantly, today, he's the head of the NCML, the Collateral Management Center. And he's expert in agri supply chains, value chains. And one of the 5 themes that Niru has chosen for you is on building value chains, agriculture value systems and supply chains. So I think Sirajji, you're the right person to share your insights at this policy insight domain with our young participants. This is your time. Ms. Siraj, please. I think you are on mute, Sirajji. You're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dalwai. You are very generous with your introduction. And you rightly said we've had many an occasion to be together on various panels. One of the challenges of coming late onto a August panel is that all the right things have already been said by the time one gets to speak. And I would start by saying that, you know, these days we talk about the word Atmanirbhar quite a lot in our conversations. And agriculture actually stands out as the first example of India being Atmanirbhar, because if you look around the globe, there are not many countries who can claim to be self-sufficient in everything that they consume. For India, it is just about everything barring edible oils, and I'm sure there will be a plan to deal with that. What we also deal with is the fact that we keep hearing about farm distress and farmer distress, which is actually an irony, because in a country going in the right direction, where you know, we are producing everything that we need to consume, we have a situation where the producer keeps complaining. And I think that has been a subject which the government has really got hand of. And if we look at some of the government actions in the past years, they're actually addressing this challenge of laying the right ecosystem, whether it is in investment facilitation in infrastructure, the whole logistics, the multimodal logistics, the mega food parks, the soil card, the DPT for fertilizers, outlays for APMCs, and the linkages to ENAM for various, I mean, the larger number of mandis, and of course the funding that we talked about from NABARD to various initiatives of the government. But this is really laying the ecosystem. The people who are supposed to then walk that into that sort of garden as we are laying out are really the industry, the farmers, and now the ag startups, why ag startups become important is that the problems in Indian agriculture are numerous and they're very localized. We often talk about the farmer as one across the country, agriculture as one, but we are a country of a very diverse agro-climatic and soil zones. So the problems are very localized. And what these agri-techs are essentially doing are addressing problems, leveraging technology to find solutions. So what they bring to the table is something that has been missing for a very long time, is agility, the agility to identify problems and find solutions. And therefore it becomes imperative to support them. And the government is doing a great job in recognizing, as I think Mr. Anil Agarwal mentioned, that it's only very recently that we've recognized the concept of startup, and the various government initiatives that are coming thereafter are one after the other confirming or addressing the issues that these startups have faced. Now, the opportunity here, and which is where I think we have a collective responsibility as a country, is that these are all fraught with, agriculture is fraught with risk. And any investment or entrepreneurship in agriculture is also fraught with a large risk. What we are doing by starting up well, and with all the initiative that the government is taking, is attracting risk capital to this sector. Because companies which are running on maintaining and managing stakeholder profitability are always going to find it difficult to take those risks, which have an equal chance of succeeding or not. But the risk capital is actually designed to pursue those ideas which can actually become very big. So therefore, and what we have seen over the years, I mean, it's been a late starter, but agriculture startups getting fundings, we've had about 450 agriculture startups which have in the last couple of years got on and stood up on their feet and have attracted close to $500 million funding, which is much higher than what it has been in the previous years. And that's a great sign, which is essentially saying that the world, not just what we're doing inside and our investments in the funding schemes that we have within the country, but the world outside is recognizing the potential in Indian agriculture. We as an ecosystem have to ensure that this faith, this optimism that is being demonstrated, where people are putting their money where their mouth is not, belied, or there's no, we don't fail them, because their success is going to be attracting more capital. And we need that risk capital, because agriculture is not a sure return, not for the farmer, not for the industry. And that, so what is required to be done to get that right? One is, of course, the ecosystem. I think the government is doing a great job. And more importantly, all organizations of the government. We've talked about the Agriculture Ministry sharing, of course, Mr. Sanjay Agarwal has been really, in the last few years, he's been sort of leading this show. Mr. Anil Agarwal talked about the startup, and NABARD has been playing its role. What we need is really scaling them up to make them more interesting. What we have seen is that, a lot of the government policies are about making people stand up. It's like there's a child is born with an idea. The government agencies, the government policies are, and the funding is supporting that child to stand up. It is our responsibility, and I think we need that commitment to ensure that that child grows up into a man and walks and runs, because that is where the future lies. And I think that's where we need more thought. And some of the ideas is, of course, what I've noticed in my interactions with a lot of the young entrepreneurs that we are seeing is that their ability to scale up is still taking time. And it's not for only lack of money. It is about the fact that agriculture remains very local. So I think there is a need for large companies and small or new startups to actually partner. And that is something that, personally as NCML, we've been looking at to see that, okay, how can an established organization like NCML adopt some of these startups, because we do have a large play in the agri value chain. And in fact, 50% of the agri startups are actually in the value chain, in the supply chain, because that's where a lot of our problems lie. The second part is that what I've also noticed with a lot of the young startups is that they are youngsters. They're people who have a technical bend of mind. They're people who are applying their brains, and they're getting funded by the people who see potential. What they're not yet geared up to is to deal with the regulatory ecosystem on the ground level. Agriculture is actually at the base of our society. And, starting off with dealing with the regulatory processes, the people at the ground level is sometimes a challenge for them. And that is somewhere where more hand-holding is required, because how we deal with at the farm level, at the panchayat level, we have given a lot of powers to our panchayats now, and they do have a lot of say in what's happening at the village level, and that system needs to link up to our agri startup system, because these youngsters have yet to develop that, and they neither have the resources, frankly speaking, nor the manpower to deal with that ecosystem, and that needs to be encouraged. And finally, I would raise another point, which is that a lot that we're talking about is finding solutions to improving productivity, to improving market linkages. But once we have done that, we also have a challenge of finding markets, because producing well, producing effectively, and reaching it to the market efficiently is not the total solution. At the end of the day, the rewards lie in getting paid by the market. So finding markets for what we are producing is going to be important. We've had great success stories. Grapes from India is a great success story of finding markets, but that's just one piece. But as we continue on this journey, building markets is not a 1 year or 2 year job. It is like building a brand. And I think globally, we have to work on building brand India. And that is an effort that we have to make for building brand India for Indian agriculture, whether it's the GI, whether it is the nutrition, whether it is the organic, or it is about sustainability. The India agriculture and food story has to be carried to the world, and it will take a number of years before the world accepts it. So it requires a certain amount of more government support while the industry does it, but obviously it does it to what is limited in its own resources and what is suited for its own good at that point of time. But I think this needs to be a combined countrywide effort in building the brand India for Indian food and Indian agriculture produce, because once we've got all our production systems right, we will need to have the market for getting the right remuneration for what we produce. So with that, I would end up here and be happy to take solutions. We as NCML have actually adopted a lot of technology, particularly on getting the farmer produce to the market. And we see that this is an area which is, with the recent farm reforms, I think that is going to create a lot of opportunity for the farmers getting linked to the market. We just need to ensure that we get all the participants on board sooner than later.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siraj. You have spoken very well and painted a very wide canvas, while you have shared with them the immense opportunities that lay forward in agriculture, particularly with respect to agriculture value chains. You also given them a word of caution that at the operation level, we need to deal with the regulatory ecosystem. I think that has been the bane of our system. So our youngsters who are extremely brainy and passionate and aspirational must also learn to deal with them. This is not to threaten the youngsters. It is just only to give a word of caution that exists. Don't get scared. They're not unsurmountable. But simultaneously, they must be also told that government is focusing on improving ease of doing business. And as all of us know, government's ranking, India's ranking in the world has catapulted thanks to various reforms it has brought about in the last 6 years. And Niti Aayog is doing a wonderful work of ranking the state governments on the ease of doing business. And they'll be also doing on the ease of doing agribusiness, so that the states are incentivized to reform relating to land, labor, capital, and various other kind of licensing systems. So the systems are changing. The environment is bound to become easier, but then the youngsters who are mostly tech savvy, they should also learn about the business principles, because scaling up from an idea to commercialized operations and further into unicorn, which is the dream of Dr. Chintala. We really hope that in agriculture we'll also see some unicorns. There's a huge opportunity. In fact, challenges are an opportunity. That's what our youngsters must learn. So thank you very much for sharing the word of advice to our youngsters. So now we will move forward, and you'll be there to take on the questions and make observations there later. So now I'll be inviting Anuj Ranjan. He represents another domain. He represents the Central Bank of India. the Reserve Bank of India. So he's the only person here, and RBI is the master for all of us, for entire economy rather. So we must listen to Anuj and be told as to what is the regulatory sandbox that RBI is thinking of, and how does it wish to actually promote the startup ecosystem in our country that all of us are looking forward to. And that one particular the issue that Siraj Chaudhry ji brought out was about Atmanirbhar Bharat. And our youngsters must know that when you talk of Atmanirbhar Bharat, it is just not self-reliance. It is not inward-looking approach. It is outward-looking approach. What the Honorable Prime Minister explained it in his own speech defining Atmanirbhar Bharat was that not only shall India become self-sufficient in its requirements, but simultaneously it shall also be the hinterland for various commodities for the world. So India is going to export and meet the requirements. And the best example has been demonstrated by the vaccines, the pandemic 19 vaccines. Imagine India is leader today, is beaten US, beaten USSR, beaten China, beaten anybody and everybody on earth. We're giving them free. We're also selling wherever people can afford to. So this is the demonstration of credibility that India has shown in the last just about 1 year. So thank you very much, Anuj. I think you should be able to share with our youngsters how they can actually move up to become unicorns in agriculture sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dalwai. I'm really privileged and honored to be with my co-panelists and esteemed guests here. As Mr. Dalwai said about Atmanirbhar, I'll start with the 5 pillars, which we all are aware, but just to kind of buttress the point, that we talk about infrastructure as one, economy second, systems, demography, and demand. Infrastructure, Mr. Siraj was talking about, it's not only about the infrastructure, which is about physical infrastructure. We are talking about IT infrastructure, market infrastructure. It has to be up to the level where we feel that the supply chain, everything is flowing correctly. The economy, we are not talking about the incremental changes. It's about the quantum jumps. If India, we see as India as self-reliant and Atmanirbhar. Systems, it has to be technology-driven system. So what we are talking about is regulatory sandbox, which I will talk about, is all about how technology can be used in financial services. Fintech, which is a very popular term, which we are hearing every now and then. Demography, our Honorable Prime Minister always talks about the dividend, the young India, the new India. It's how we use the demography, which is young, how the technology, Mr. Dalwai was talking about the technology savvy people. If 65% are young, automatically it should be technology savvy population, which is in India. And the demand, it is about the full utilization of the power of demand and supply. Are we meeting the demand? Are we able to meet the demands, and whether the supply is commensurating the demand? So with this kind of 5 pillars of Atmanirbharta, RBI, apart from various other things in agriculture, and we have heard our previous speakers, I would touch upon, and the one important thing when Mr. Dalwai talked about the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine on being leader, we all must be aware that India has been a leader when it comes to payment and settlement systems. Huge country, but we are number 1 in many of the areas on payment and settlement. And that is why we felt if regulations, a mechanism where we develop regulations that keep pace with innovation. In Reserve Bank, we thought of having a regulatory sandbox where live testing of new products and services in a controlled environment is done. What it does, it brings regulators, innovators, financial service providers, and customers at one place. And they conduct a field test to collect evidence on the benefits and risks of new financial innovations. So it is more of a everybody coming together and then trying to test in a very confined environment, in a limited environment, where startups can come and join in as many number possible. At this juncture, I must tell you that we announced, though due to pandemic things got delayed, but we had announced regulatory sandbox in August 2019. But then as we were about to start, this pandemic hit us and it got delayed by 6-7 months. But as soon as the unlock phase started and we started to come out of the pandemic, we started with the first cohort, which is on retail payments. Why did we choose retail payment? The reason being, we feel, because most of us are smartphone users, we feel app-based technology will take care of all the payment systems. But it's not the correct way of thinking. If you know, I read some report, but even if the number of feature phone users are decreasing, 2022 we will have still 50 crore feature phones in India. So what we have done in that retail payment segment, we have encouraged startups, innovators to come out and tell us how do we use feature phone to develop this retail payment segment. And we are very happy to see that some of the innovations which is under testing, which is already undergoing test, it is based on a voice library, sound. It can be used by putting a jacket on the SIM, and feature phones can be used to make transactions. So the idea is to encourage innovation, incubate ideas, and why it is done in limited environment. If there are risks, the risks do not go beyond control. It is in a limited environment. If we are able to, if there is a risk factor coming to it, we are able to contain that. But if we are we are getting a signal that it is working well, it will be rolled out to a larger population. And ultimately, the aim is that we reach the last mile. And the data suggests still we have 55% of the population in agriculture. Are we reaching them? Is the mechanism which lot of reforms which have happened in last 5-6 years, are we able to reach to the last people at the last mile? So these innovations through Sandbox, Reserve Bank is trying to encourage in the area of not only in payment systems. Now we have come out, we will be announcing very shortly about MSME lending and how fintech can be used for faster, efficient, how lack of adequate finance because of unaware people, how to reach the people who need MSME finance. We are going to announce that MSME lending under fintech's regulatory sandbox, and you as young innovators, you must come out with ideas and see that the people take maximum advantage, how we can make it very easy for people to avail advances, small ticket loans, primarily under MSME. And, you know, it's a major contributor to our GDP. So why not we as innovator come out with ideas, and if it fits into the regulatory parameter, we will immediately come out with guidelines, and the MSME credit flow reaches the needy people. So the RBI's effort has been on this just to ensure that none of the sectors remain unattended to, and the financial technology, fintech, reaches each and every corner. Mr. Chintala, Dr. Chintala was talking about geotagging. We are not going to geotagging to know in India how many POS machines are there, how many ATMs are there, how many micro ATMs are there. Everything will be, we will know which is an unserved part of the country, which is underserved part of the country, which is thinly served. So kind of we have a total picture of India where we have been able to reach. And if there are areas where efforts have to be put in, the Reserve Bank will try to kind of reach to those areas. So primarily the whole approach of RBI is to encourage innovators and startups to get into this regulatory sandbox. And as and when we announce different cohorts, which is sometimes payment, sometimes agriculture, sometimes lending, you all should come up and develop technology. And we are there together to see that the India grows into a big economy, 5 trillion economy, and become Atmanirbhar. That is the whole aim of whatever efforts are being taken. So this is from my side. I just wanted to kind of confine myself to the innovations and how the regulatory guidelines can be built around those. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anuj. You have given the various promotional and facilitative support that you from the RBI would be giving to the startup ventures. And very rightly have you pointed out the need for integrating into the MSME sector. Ultimately, we need to graduate from micro to small to medium. And unfortunately, because of the tight regulatory environment in our country, particularly relating to labor, our industrialists have not consciously graduated from small to medium. They have deliberately kept themselves at this small scale level. But the recent reforms under the Atmanirbhar Bharat has also reforms that many states, including Rajasthan, Karnataka, have brought about in the labor domain. It is now going to be easier for you to graduate from micro to small to medium. So I think that particular advantage the youngsters should be able to take. And, and then, of course, you have also shared with them the various other support that the sandbox from RBI would be providing. So thank you very much. I'm sure they'll learn more and they will be in touch with you. So now we have the last panelist with us here, who is also a unique person, and I'm sure it should be of great help in terms of transmitting knowledge to the youngsters, because he's somebody who's now with the government in the Niti Aayog, which is a think tank of our government, and he heads it as a mission director of the Atal Innovation Center, which is the principal center for promoting enterprise in the country, as also entrepreneurship. And more importantly, he comes from industry background. And I'm highly impressed, Mr. Ramanan, that you have an excellent academic background. You have from IIT Bombay in electrical engineering, and you have studied management from Harvard Business School, you know, all the Ivy League institutes of the world. So you're here. And then I think you also tested well in the TCS. So our young friends, please know, he worked for Tata Consultancy Services. He has moved up over decades of service there. And I see from his CV that he is somebody who has done a lot of product development. That's what you want to do. Then he has done technical marketing. That's what we need to do. And global business development and general management of large centers of TCS. So this is what a young entrepreneur who has some bright idea wants to convert that into some tangible product and then finally market it. I think that's what all Mr. Ramanan has done. So Mr. Ramanan, you should be able to share how to make things easier from your based on your experience, so that that fear that our young boys and girls have here, they'll be able to overcome and actually prove success. So Mr. Ramanan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Dalwai, for that very generous introduction. And it's an absolute pleasure and privilege for me to be able to join this very prestigious deliberation on a topic that is so very important to our country. We're after all a country of 1.3 billion people, but 44% of our country is based on agri economy, and more than 50% of our people are either directly or indirectly employed in the agri sector. We are also a country which is very young, as has been pointed out by all the other speakers. We are having more than 1.4 million schools in our country. We have more than 10,500 engineering and related institutions. We have over 39,000 colleges, and we have more than 150 million young students, some of who are present on this particular call, who are going to define the future of our country, the Atmanirbhar Bharat of our dreams, as they say. So there is a tremendous opportunity. This is a demographic dividend that every country looks for, this youthful, energetic force that has the power to transform the nation. And you can all, as the great Mahatma Gandhi said, you can be the change that you want to see. So we have a potential of a huge number of change makers in our country. But that, in order to be able to transform and to empower our young people, this demographic dividend into new skills that are very, very important from a world point of view and which are emerging, we need to ensure that we also create and promote an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship in every aspect of our country's development and across the length and breadth of our country. After all, how do we leverage this demographic dividend and create that ecosystem? Because Indian innovators have excelled everywhere. India has never lacked for great innovators or great engineers or great scientists or great thinkers. Whenever they have gone abroad, they have excelled and reached the highest levels of eminence that is possible. And that is because they have been made available an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship where they are able to realize their creative potential and rise to the highest levels of creative expression of their capability. And that is why you have a Satya Nadella heading Microsoft, a Sundar Pichai heading Google, a Shantanu Narayan heading Adobe, and Arvind Krishna heading IBM. You have several Indians leading major universities in the United States, whether it is Harvard Business School or Carnegie Mellon or Stanford and so on. And we have a number of people, engineers and scientists, philosophers, artists, you name it, they all excel in that ecosystem. So the Atal Innovation Mission was formed by the Honorable Prime Minister as a clarion call to this need, the need for creating and promoting an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship across the length and breadth of our nation so that we are able to create a nation of job creators, not just job seekers. We are a country with many challenges, but these challenges, there are a million challenges in India for 1 billion people, but these million challenges can be looked upon as a million opportunities for our young, talented, dynamic young youth of India to be able to take on head on and be able to convert them into entrepreneurial organizations, into startups, into new job creation. And that is why the Atal Innovation Mission has adopted a very holistic approach towards creating and promoting this ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship across our country. At the school level, we have launched thousands of tinkering labs called Atal Tinkering Labs. And these tinkering labs are dedicated innovation workspaces in schools where the young students from grade 6 to grade 12 are getting exposed to the latest technologies that are changing the shape of the world. Technologies like 3D printing, robotics, IoT, or Internet of Things, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality, and artificial intelligence are the solutions upon which the world of tomorrow is being built. And unless you have a good knowledge, a working knowledge of these emerging technologies through do-it-yourself kits that you are able to introduce at a school level, our students and our school students will not know how do you create solutions for the problems that you see in and around the community. And therefore, the Atal Tinkering Labs is a game-changing initiative aligned with the new educational policy that was just rolled out last year in order to enable to solve and transform our young students from our schools from a rote learning mindset to a problem-solving, innovative mindset. We need young students like you who are on this call to be the innovators of tomorrow. You need to be able to look at problems around, whether it is in agri-tech, whether it is in water management, whether it is in affordable housing, whether it is in waste management and reuse. All of these are challenges, but also opportunities for you to apply affordable, accessible, available, and advanced technology. So that is the key. India, while it has many challenges, has 3 very, very strong factors going for it. And that is your source of encouragement and inspiration for innovation and entrepreneurship today. We have a demographic dividend, like I said, which is the envy of many a country. We are one of the fastest growing economies of the world. Barring the COVID-19 crisis, we have been growing anywhere between 6 to 8% every year. Now, for a country of our size, that is a huge growth. And that is important because you cannot spur innovation and entrepreneurship unless you have a fast growing economy. And third, we are living in a world where technology is advancing rapidly, but at the same time, it is becoming affordable, accessible, available, and advanced. So when you have a convergence of all of these three, you have an immense opportunity to be able to make an impact in every vertical that we think of. And India has many challenges. Like I said, we are a country with 650,000 villages. We have more than 4,000 small towns and cities. We have 715 districts in our country, out of which 115 are aspirational districts because they're at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of basic access to healthcare, education, hygiene, clean drinking water, sanitation, and waste management. We need to be able to carry these people along, and therefore the pillar, the Atmanirbhar Bharat pillar that was so eloquently addressed by the previous speaker, the 5 pillars become very important for creating a framework for every vertical. Now let's take the agri vertical that we are talking about. It is one of the most important verticals that we need to address. So how do we promote innovation and entrepreneurship? To do this, of course, as I said, at the school level, we are inducting knowledge about various technologies and problem-solving innovative thinking to breed a culture of innovation in our country. But at the university level, we have launched hundreds of incubators fostering thousands of startups. And this is the startup nation of the world. We have more than 50,000 startups in our country. We have more than 400 incubators. What does an incubator do? It actually enables a startup to overcome the valleys of death in its startup life cycle because of lack of mentoring support, venture capital support, access to technology, access to research labs, access to applied research. When you have these elements missing, a startup falls in a valley of death. In order to prevent that valley of death from overcoming the startup, we established world-class incubators. Today, the Atal Innovation Mission in the last couple of years has launched over 68 incubators, out of which 118 startups have sprung up, and 555 of them are women-led startups. It is amazing to see that in a country of 1.3 billion people, where almost 50% of our population is the girl child and the women, we still have only 13% women entrepreneurs. This ratio needs to change. And that is why the element of inclusivity in the demographic dividend and the ability to develop new skills, leveraging these technologies and creating millions of livelihood entrepreneurs at the women in the rural areas and in coastal India is very important. So our Atal incubation centers, out of these 1,800 startups, we have more than 137 agri-tech startups. Now, why is agri-tech startup such an exciting area? You would have thought that everybody wants to go into the IT field or the ICT field and just make, get into e-commerce and so on. But the agriculture area is one of the most promising areas for startups. You have a number of technologies revolutionizing agriculture. Whether it is drone technology, whether it's called precision agriculture. Israel has become a great export market. A desert has got converted into an agri-export country and a water exporting country. Now, how do they do that? Because they are leveraging sensor technologies, soil cards. They are able to convert water from the atmosphere, draw the moisture from the atmosphere and convert it into water using sensor technologies. They have develop the next generation of cold storage and transportation technologies. So because of all of this, you are able to create a revolution, not only in being able to give water, precise amount of water and fertilizers to a crop that is needed for that particular crop, but you're also able to ensure that the crops survive, the grains survive, the export possibilities increase, the storage capabilities increase, the supply chain is managed better because of technology. All of these factors go to creating an exciting world for startups. So my dear students who are all out there, or young innovators who are participating in this is the time to grab the technology capabilities that they bring into the agri sector and multiply our agri sector productivity and thereby the farmer's income. Digital transformation is enabling global reach. So from Sikkim to San Francisco, or from Salem to Seattle, or from Jaipur to Japan, you are able to connect, market your product, understand the needs of the market at this ends of the earth, and be able to adjust yourself appropriately. Satellite communication technologies and wireless technologies and 5G technologies, mobile technologies, and the internet is enabling the farmer to get state-of-the-art information about how do you improve your productivity and what the market demands are. Now, in order for India to develop in a sustainable manner, we also need to ensure that we have local community-centric innovations and community-centric job creation. Because every community of ours, the tribal district, the coastal district, the fishing districts, they have different demands. How do you, for example, increase innovation in the fishing industry in the coastal districts? How do you increase the horticulture industry in the Northeast or in places like Jammu and Kashmir? That are different requirements, and therefore the need of community-centric innovation and thereby community-centric job creation. And that is what the Honorable Prime Minister means in a socio-economic progress of the country. We just cannot have economic progress. We need to ensure that the socio-economic divides are being bridged, digital divides are being overcome, and the divide between the haves and the have-not is eliminated. So this is where technology again can be a great leveler and enable great amount of innovation and entrepreneurship. And for this reason, we are setting up Atal community innovation centers across the country in rural India, in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and in rural India to be able to foster innovation and job creation and the application of innovation which has been done elsewhere into these rural communities. There is a tremendous opportunity for value-adding food processing to be units to be created where technology can play a major intervention, whether it is in storage or whether it is in value addition in terms of food processing machines. And therefore, these mega parks that have been announced by the government is a great opportunity in the agriculture sector for us to be able to increasing our export possibilities. We are the largest producer of milk. We are among the largest producers of fruits like the banana or the guava or the papaya and so on. We are the second largest producer of rice and wheat and so on. But we are ranking low in the development of value-adding food products which can be exported. A small country like New Zealand with 4 million people and 44 million sheep is one of the largest agri exporters in the world. Why is it that India cannot become the largest agri exporter in the world? And that is the potential, that is the opportunity that we all need to tap. And that is the opportunity in front of all the young innovators who are looking upon how you can look upon a field of agriculture as an exciting possibility for positioning India among the leaders of the world. I do think that the Atmanirbhar Bharat pillars, as was earlier shared by Anuj, the pillar of demographic dividend, the pillar of infrastructure, the pillar of demand, the pillar of socio-economic progress, and the pillar of technology, gluing all of them together is going to provide the perfect framework for high-ended innovation, entrepreneurship to dominate India's landscape across the world. We have grown in our innovative capability from a position of 81 to a position of 48 just in 5 years. We have, as I said, jumped up 33 places in the Global Innovation Index. We have the ability to be among the global top 10 innovative companies within the next 10 years. We have the demographic dividend, we have the capabilities, we have the technology, and we have a fast-growing economy. As the great Abdul Kalam said, dream big and you will achieve great things. Dream small and you will be limited by your own dreams. A country of our size needs every one of us to dream big. And as the great Swami Vivekananda said, arise, awake, and stop not till our goals are reached. I think we should arise to the challenges that India faces. We should awaken in us the latent talent that is capable of solving these challenges, and we should not stop until the Atmanirbhar Bharat goals of our country are reached. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts on this particular occasion.
Thank you, Mr. Ramanan. You are very optimally articulated inspiration, motivation, and of course the business principles. You have laid before us the entire canvas of infrastructure and the government's support for promoting business environment. Thank you very much, and I'm sure they will be learning much more from you in due course of time. There's so much that you have got to say. You've rightly pointed out the vast sea of opportunities that actually lays before us. In this context, before I forget, I must tell all the participants here that yes, we all the speakers have actually paid tribute to your agility of mind with respect to technology. I think very sharply Mr. Siraj particularly pointed out the necessity for you to actually learn of the opportunities. So what I would like to share with you is that please look at the doubling farmers income report. It's not because I've written that. I just want to tell you, go to the Department of Agriculture website, www.agricoop.nic.in, okay, and you access doubling farmers income report. It has 14 volumes, which analyzes the entire gamut of agriculture from end to end. It brings to focus the need for shifting from production centricity to income centricity, and from default profession to a professional choice. And if you go to the index, then you can pick up any of the volumes which you think is directly related to you. For example, volume 12 deals with science and technology, including digital technology. Volume 3 and 4 will give you all about agri-logistics and marketing opportunities. Okay, so, and the structural reforms are all in the volume 13. So all that you need with respect to the 5 themes that that have been chosen for your hackathon, they're all there. So you can pick up the ideas from there. This is what Mr. Ramanan was saying, that we need to look at the opportunities that lie in agriculture, but what specific opportunity can we actually tap on? So I think you'll get a lot of those ideas from the Doubling Farmers Income Report, because that is the baby of Honorable Prime Minister's dream of doubling farmers' income. So do look at that, and I think you will get a lot of ideas, and including what ICAR wanted to do in the MOU that they signed with the Institute of Technology at Hyderabad, and the changes that are required. So I will certainly leave at that now. We have completed the address by all the panelists, and it has been a really learning for me also personally from each one of you. So now what we do is that we have had a few questions. So we already overshot the time. Maybe with permission of Niru, will take another 5 to 10 minutes. And there are some questions that have been raised. And one of the, I think everybody's not here. I find, of course, Sanjay called me up to say that he has been called by the Honorable Minister for briefing. So he has left. Then we will ask Dr. Chintala to answer on particular observation or question that has been raised to him. Farmers are afraid to invest in innovation and agri-tech solutions. How to de-risk and improve adoption of technology? This is the question. To repeat, farmers are afraid to invest in innovation and agriculture technology. How to de-risk and improve adoption of technology? That's the question. Dr. Chintala, can you kindly respond? Yes, and there has been a request from the organizers that all the speakers must switch off their video so that there's greater clarity, cameras. So you can come, when you need to answer, do come alive. Yes. Yeah, Dr. Chintala is not here? Okay, if Chintala is not there, then I think I will go to the next one. It is for Mr. Siraj. Siraj sahab, aap bataiye how corporate can support food technology startups, because of competition is very high in food processing. So they're asking about food processing domain.
So there has, yeah, so am I audible? Yes.
Yes, yes.
There has been this, I mean, of late I've seen, particularly there has been a lot of initiative by the startups to get into nutrition space, and nutrition leveraging the traditional Indian food crops. And the best way to do it is that they need partnerships with market access companies, because at the end of the day, if you create a good product, you need to take it to market. The cost of going to market is very high. So partnership with the marketing or the sales companies, and today, fortunately, e-commerce has provided that opening. That needs to be leveraged. And of course, you will find the market or stay in the market if your product is good and there are enough success stories. But yes, it is tough to get to the market, and that needs to be recognized. There are barriers to be crossed in terms of quality and the whole approval of your product. which is something where there is now, of course, FSCCI has come out with great clarity on what is required. But competition in this space is always going to be high because this is an area of low entry barrier. And, I mean, we have enough food producers, enough foods, and one will have to stand up in competition. The opportunity that is there and what is different is that all the food, and India is actually the opportunity space, because what we are seeing today is a change in the eating order. The food that was being consumed by the world over the years, the large corporates which were gaining dominance across the world are suddenly being met with this resistance of healthy eating. And that is bringing in the opportunity for more nutritional and traditional Indian eating, and COVID has probably accelerated that change. So the opportunity area has increased. The large corporations are actually having to reset their strategies, and therefore there is an opportunity for smart Indian startups to get into this space. But yes, and e-commerce is actually providing you the opportunity to reach the market cheaper and sooner than you would have had to go through if it was only left to the traditional retail.
Thank you very much. There was one question for Mr. Sanjay, the Secretary of the Department, and it is about, I will read it and answer on his behalf. The question is, as the agri-tech ecosystems take off, is there a pathway for these young companies involved with farmers' welfare to pass on the bottlenecks faced by them? So this is a very good observation, good comment, good question. Yes, certainly there will be an opportunity for the startups to share their problems. You can share with the concerned state government as also the national government. For example, within our own department, today we have a division which deals with startups, deals with enterprise. So there will be a joint secretary. There is a joint secretary who's in charge of this. So you would be welcome to share your problems so that they can coordinate and resolve those. Simultaneously, today, both at the state level and the district level, things are opening up. I know, for example, Karnataka has recently adopted a startup policy, and I'm sure all states will now start adopting startup policies. In fact, Karnataka has adopted very specifically agri startup policy. And at the district level, the policy talks about setting up a window to address all these issues. So certainly from our ministry side also, this advice will go to everybody, and you certainly need a hand holding. But I would also say that at the district level, I think our district industry center, which is responsible for promoting enterprise, will now need to be reoriented a bit to actually become a hand holding agency, because that's where everybody can actually coordinate. So we can bring in that thing, but this is a well taken point. You certainly need hand holding, and we will keep that in mind. So now Dr. Chintala is here. I would request him to answer. Farmers are afraid to invest in innovation and agri-tech solutions. So this is an apprehension about the farmers. You may not agree. How to de-risk and improve adoption of technology. That's the response.
Yeah, no, farmers are afraid of innovation. Somehow I don't agree much. Because farmers are always innovative and they try to take the risk also. This is what our experience, and we have our farmers clubs, we have so many innovations. But at the same time, that de-risking, whatever is there, actually has to be done. So now pilots have to be run. We are running some of the pilots, and as I was telling that now there should be a coordinated approach, and particularly with regard to the startups technologies that are there, farmers need to be educated properly as to really how the startup is going to help them, and what kind of a revenue model the startups are having, that has to be spelled out very clearly to the farmers. Most of the times, the technology is just farmed off, and afterwards, in case if the startup is not there, and so the farmers will be left high and dry. So we are telling everyone, whosoever is going to the farmers or the farmers to do submissions, you have to be with them, and you have to handhold them, and we have to be part of this thing. So that we are insisting also, sometimes these people should place at least 1 or 2 people there, so that they will be part of their entire operation from these FPOs and FPCs. And also that individual farmers, now we have seen that in some places, individual farmers are also buying some of these products, because some maybe ventures which we have financed, we found that that maybe like soil health related kind of thing. Individual farmer is coming, paying a little bit of fees, and he is getting the advice from the startup also. And in the process, he is getting maybe very good kind of a benefit out of it. And the other one is there are some aggregators, that is without having any link to anything, that they are the ones who are going to the farmers, talking to them, some subsequent, like there is one called Pay Agri kind of a thing, where these are the people who go to the farmers and tell really what are the crops which they would like to procure and what are the quality parameters. And the farmers are producing and they are giving a prior commitment also. Now, this is what the new formulas says, but thing is some of these private startups are already doing such kind of a thing. The fourth thing which I would like to say that e-mandis now, it has become a fashion. E-mandis, that is e-NAM is nothing but the normal mandi converted into e-NAM. But there are, I have seen one of the places where that a private FPO and a group of farmers have started their own e-mandi. And we could see the benefit the farmer is getting per kilo, at least 2 or 3 rupees more he is getting on onion or maybe other kind of a produce. Now, the time has come for everyone, including the agriculture department, but maybe institutions like NABARD, maybe everyone to go to the farmers through our DDMs or anything. Tell them really what exactly this particular startup is trying to do, in case a particular startup is working in that area, and how the benefits can be channelized to them, and what will be the cost involved. Because ultimately, Dalwai ji was telling that de-risking is nothing but the cost also. Sometimes, so these startups ask a very astronomical sum to the farmers, and probably farmers are afraid whether to give or not. So this is also one thing. Now, recently, one particular startup was designing a kind of like a agri stack, the way that Sanjay Agarwal was telling, a kind of a stack, and there they say that absolutely they will charge maybe 1 or 2 paisa per each hit. So in that way, that farmer at the end of the year probably may not be paying more than maybe around 50 rupees or 20 rupees for all the advices he is taking. But like that Google, this particular startup is going to make a lot of money in the days to come. So now the time has come for all of us, whoever is hand-holding and mentoring. The startups should not create a kind of a fear among the farmers that they will charge astronomical sums and afterward the benefits there are not. Actually, the benefits will also be there, should also be there. And at the same time, the charges should be reasonable for all the services the farmers are going to get. And the volumes will make money to the startup. So initially, any of the startups have got a different kind of a thing. Maybe for some time, they can take chance with the maybe the venture capital, subsequently to the venture debt, subsequently also they can do, and the valuations are done in a totally different fashion. So a lot of funding is also coming. So when all these things are there, they need not be too maybe greedy and expensive in the beginning. Only once they scale up, automatically the business will flow to them. So that should be my advice to all the startups who are going to take this business in a big way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chintala, for your right advice. That cost effectiveness, quality of service, and time of service. I think these 3 things that you highlighted for any venture to succeed, these are the basic 3 principles: cost, quality, and time of service. If you can ensure that, I think the farmers will certainly respond. And I would join you in assuring our youngsters that farmers of India have shown great response to technology. If they had not adopted the technology, we would not have had green revolution. We would not have had white revolution. If they are a little hesitant, it's only because they don't have enough of savings. They don't have withholding capacity. Now that we are trying to focus on agricultural transformation to strengthen their profits, their savings, and certainly they'll become much more responsive to adopting new technology. So there's a last issue, an observation or question that will close it, and that has been escalated to me. And what it says is, what is advice you would like to give to agri-tech ventures while navigating to their journey at policy level? If I understand the question rightly, you're asking what kind of policy level changes should happen to enable you to navigate towards a destination. So your destination is from the idea concept level to operationalization, and finally scaling it up to a medium scale and large scale and unicorn, hopefully, as Dr. Chintala has rightly aspired on for you people. So I would say, and of course Ramanan would be the right person to also take this thought forward, One is that, yes, we today have 400 incubation centers, both within the public sector and the private sector, including at the academic institutions, etc. Now, can we make all these incubation centers also entrepreneurship development centers? Because today, for example, we have under the Department of Science and Technology, which promotes the incubation centers as well as the EDPs. But I think EDPs and the incubation centers must come together so that they become a single window where the youngsters can access not just technology testing facility, but also they're able to access the capital, they're able to access the market research and market studies, and also the entrepreneurship qualities. I think this is very important. That's what many of them lack, because when we talk of startups, we'll be talking about first generation entrepreneurs. Largely, there'll be first generation entrepreneurs. There could be a few only second generation. So first generation entrepreneurs will require a lot of confidence building, how to actually reach out to the market. So I think that's one policy change that, or policy emphasis that I will suggest. The second one is that whether all our universities, like say agriculture universities and the ICAR centers under the National Agriculture Research System, can make available the technologies that they have developed at concessional rate, or even at almost freely to the youngsters, based on, of course, certain criteria, so that they can actually save the time on that. The third policy intervention that may be required is, just as we handhold them at the incubation center till they're able to test the marketability of their product, can we also give them kind of financial support for year 1 and year 2, where they're actually scaling up in real environment? Okay, one is handling from incubation centers. Second one is actually facing the realities of world. And can we some kind of of course, it has to be conditional. It's not just free service. It has to be conditional that you have achieved so much. To give a concrete example, for every hit that on their software application they get from a farmer, they paid something. That means they first show that there has been a demand on their service, and therefore we make some kind of a payment, a compensation. So that will help them to strengthen, I think rightly is a death valley. That is a very nice phrase that Mr. Ramanan used. If they're able to get over the death valley, I'm sure they'll be on their own. So I think some policy intervention is also required at that stage. And the fourth one, I would say, there's so much of technology available in India. Unfortunately, there is not a single common platform where all these technologies developed in the public sector is onboarded, both for the farmers and also for the young entrepreneurs. So can we now start building up platforms using the IT power at district, state, and national level with an interoperable architecture? Some state develops one particular architecture, another state is doing something else. So we don't have interoperability. So we need to build that interoperability. The fifth one is government needs to now come out with a very clear policy on data sharing. Now, data is the strength, data is the power. I know, for example, when I was heading the technology center of UIDAI, there was so much of demand from countries like Germany saying that I want to sign an MoU with you, you give me data and I will do research for you. We said we can do research ourselves. Our data is not free. India has the richest data. India has the richest data, given the huge population and the dimensions. So I think India now needs to come out with a very clear policy. Is it going to be made available through open access, not only to government agencies, or also to the private sector, or including the youngsters? So I think we need to come out with that policy. If we are able to take care of this data, because a lot of time is spent only on research by these people. Every technology has to be marketable. So we need a market to research, market to enterprise approach, and not enterprise to market. It cannot be a supply push. It has to be demand oriented. If we need a demand oriented enterprise by these youngsters, we need to offer them access to data. I think that is the biggest initiative that you can take. And apart from at the EDPs and incubation centers, all venture capitalists, angel investors, everybody comes actually on board, and a single window is created. DICs, which were started in 1977-78, have done a good job, but they have got outdated. There is no manpower at the DICs, particularly with respect to IT. I think Niti Aayog should now really think of how to strengthen, modernize, reorient, restructure DICs. Okay, this is very important. If we can make DICs now alive, become the hub of new hand-holding, I think it will be a great initiative. After all, DICs were a Government of India initiatives in 1977. George Fernandes was the industry minister. And I think a time has come for second generation innovation of the DICs themselves. So there is a lot that policy can still do. There have been a lot of steps that government has taken, reforming the policies to popularize these innovation centers or enterprises. But I think a lot more needs to be done, considering the fact that there's so much of response. Bangalore has emerged as the innovation hub, as topping the world. We are all proud of it. India itself, as Mr. Ramanan said, is now at 41st or 44th rank. So there's so much of opportunity. Jugaad is in our blood. That Jugaad needs to be systematized using technology, business principles, and methodologies, and scaling it up. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. So I think, Niru, we have taken half an hour more of yours, but I hope that our youngsters have benefited from the various random thoughts of all of us. And simultaneously, thank you very much for giving us all this opportunity. And I would like to thank all our speakers today, starting from Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, who delivered a keynote address. And then, of course, Anil Agarwal and Dr. Chintala, Mr. Ramanan, and Mr. Siraj Chaudhry, and Mr. Anuj. So all of you, thank you very much for your very robust thoughts. Thank you very much. Good day.
If I may just add, Mr. Ashok, I just want to add to the last point. Niti Aayog is actually working on many initiatives related to policy making and how do you promote innovation, entrepreneurship, especially in the agri-tech community. And so we'd be very happy to receive thoughts, suggestions, ideas that anyone has so that we can help shape this particular sector better. But also we are working very closely with Ministry of Agriculture in launching a series of challenges, what we call as Arise Challenges and Atal New India Challenges. Arise Challenges are specifically for the MSME community in agriculture. And there are many challenges which have been launched. We have actually right now selecting the winners of these challenges. But I think this is another way of seeing specific community-centric, district-oriented challenges that we are able to launch so that a particular innovation can benefit a particular district. And the last point I want to make is that you talked about the district innovation councils and the district, at a district level, how do you promote innovation? We are already working on some policies towards that, and hopefully that will see the light of the day in the months ahead.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you for sharing this. So Niru, we transfer back the floor to you. Thank you very much personally.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You have made my task very easy, and I really very thankful to you for conducting this beautiful session and articulating in such a way. And we know that you are a man behind giving the shape to the doubling the farmers' income. And personally, whenever I learn a lot of from you whenever I get a chance to hear you. So it was really nice to have a battery of esteemed panelists. So I'm very hopeful that I am very thankful to Dr. Chintala because he was not having time, but on my personal request that he could make it. Thank you, sir, for sharing your new initiative. And I fully agree with you that now FPO and Startup Connect is the next wave that we have to work on that, because the FPO is going to aggregate and the startup are going to leverage that. So this is the another connect that we are looking forward towards that, and we would like to work on that. Yeah, thank you, Anil, sir, for giving, very rightly mentioned that the startup government procurement policy, if that can be done in the favor of the startup, that will infuse the new blood. This was my, in fact, I was also talking about that because under RKVY Raftar, last year we we gave the funding to around 430 startups, and 718 startups were incubated. So I was just saying that this is a repository with us, and if you can see some of the solution that which is being required, And now I think that is the next step required at our level, at the ministry level, if we can take advantage of these startups and can give them this kind of support, that will definitely infuse in new blood in these startups. So thank you, sir, and for making my sharing the right thoughts. And Mr. Ramanan, thanks very much, because I know that you were busy throughout the day in conducting the interviews, but still you could make it. I'm really very happy the way that you articulated and with examples that the new initiatives, and we will be really very, I'm very excited to be part of your challenges. So if we can be of any help, so I'll be very happy to get associated with you. Yeah, Siraj, yeah, definitely it is always a privilege to learn from you, to hear, and I'm really hopeful that the startups could get motivated and inspired, and they also get the word of caution. Yes, regulatory is a big issue that we should understand, but without getting the proper regulatory approvals, it will not be easy for us to be in the market. So yeah, you have very rightly mentioned that point. And Anuj, yeah, so because this was the new initiative from the RBI regarding the sandbox, so we thought that without which it will not be possible to complete the panel of the batteries. So that so we requested, and Anuj very happily agreed on that, because he was a little bit jittery that we are talking about the agriculture only. So I said, we would like to listen from you about your recent initiative regarding the sandbox. So I'm happy that he could share his thoughts on that. And I'm very hopeful that the startups will be startups on this one platform. They are getting all advice from all the domains. And so they will be in a position to get the benefit of this. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. Last but not the least, Pusakrishi, because team Pusakrishi, because they are working day in and out for organizing the semi-final round. And today we have completed with this Agri India Meet, 7th Agri India Meet, the semi-final round. And we would like to see all of you in the grand finale that will be organized on 17th of February. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All the best to you. Thanks a lot.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.